It's time for NCW Life News on the NCW Life channel. The latest from the Wenatchee Valley and North Central Washington with Steve Hare, Grant Olson, and sports with Eric Granstrom.
Good evening and welcome to NCW Life News. I'm Grant Olson. Before we get to today's top stories, let's take a quick look at your weather forecast and what we're seeing behind my shoulder. Yes, smoky skies, and all of us talking about that around north central Washington today. Most of the smoke is coming from our north, from the Diamond Creek fire near Mazama. Also some smoke from a fire in northern Idaho and western Montana. All of that producing the smoke that we're seeing here in the Wenatchee Valley. Not much wind to scour that smoke out either, so we can expect that throughout the day and tonight. And we'll talk more about your weather forecast coming up a little bit later on in our broadcast. And now a few of the stories we're following for you tonight. Wenatchee joins National Night Out at Centennial Park this evening. A car accident sends one to the hospital in Moses Lake, and 2 county commissioners attend a forest health meeting with Senator Brad Hawkins. Later on, we'll have sports, your weather forecast, and our feature story today. But first, the Chelan County Sheriff's Department issued a news release yesterday that chronicles the sequence of events that ended last Thursday night with a Wenatchee police officer fatally shooting 31-year-old Matthew Folden outside Albertson's grocery store in Wenatchee. Here's how the incident unfolded. A radio call for shots fired went out at 10:09 p.m. Rivercom dispatchers toned out fire and aid at the same time, with units reporting they were en route at 10:10 and 10:11 p.m. Officers at the scene rendered first aid for gunshot wounds while waiting for the additional units. The first firefighter arrived at the scene at 10:12 p.m., the first fire truck at 10:13, and the first ambulance at 10:15. The suspect was then transported to Central Washington Hospital at 10:20 p.m. Current Chelan County Commissioner and former Washington State Patrol Officer Kevin Overbay says the tragedy has changed 2 families' lives forever.
You know, first and foremost, it's tragic anytime there's a loss of life. Anytime an officer has to take a life of an individual, it's a tragic situation, not only for the families of the victim, but also for, you know, the officer, for the officer's family, and for the community as a whole. And it's not something that you ever want to see occur. I probably know nothing more about it than what you know, or any other citizen, but there's a process in place. You know, you have a special investigative unit here in Wenatchee Valley that's made up of multiple agencies, and they all are working together to try to get to the source. You know, what actually transpired that evening. You know, what led up to the events that created that use of force situation. And so they need to have the time to do that investigation, and they need to be able to go through each and every piece to make sure that every stone is is turned, and make sure that they come to the true reasons why that had to happen. And it is unfortunate. It's an unfortunate situation, and condolences absolutely go out to the family, the victim, but also we need to make sure that we keep the officer that's involved as well in our thoughts, because they experience a lot after that as well.
As investigators try to piece together what happened, investigation spokesman Edgar Reinfeld says over the course of last weekend, additional interviews were conducted with several eyewitnesses. Reinfeld also says the officer involved in the shooting remains on administrative leave and will not be named until a later date. National Night Out is tonight at Centennial Park in downtown Wenatchee. Law enforcement agencies use the nationwide event to promote crime prevention and neighborhood watch programs in a casual setting. But Chelan County Sheriff Brian Burnett says police are concerned about the community's reaction to what occurred in last week's fatal Wenatchee police shooting.
So between ourselves, Wenatchee PD, State Patrol, is just having some people on alert. We call them like a standby type of thing, where agencies have special response teams to handle it with a riot control, that type of thing. I suspect, if they were to call up some picketing or, some demonstrations, that I know they were calling one there for Memorial Park, and the expectation would be that it would be down there along the sidewalk as a peaceful demonstration, and obviously we wouldn't be interfering with those.
National Night Out is from 6 to 8:30 p.m. at Centennial Park tonight. Free food, entertainment, and kids games will also be featured. It's sponsored by the Chelan County Sheriff's Department in conjunction with the Wenatchee and East Wenatchee Police Departments, Douglas County Sheriff, and Washington State Patrol. An elderly Warden man is recovering at a local hospital following a two-vehicle accident yesterday morning south of Moses Lake. Washington State Patrol says 81-year-old Frederick Jones was stopped in his 2010 Chrysler Sebring at a flagger-controlled construction area on State Route 17, 6 miles south of Moses Lake, when a 2016 Honda Accord, driven by 41-year-old John Gunter of Richland, failed to stop for traffic, striking Jones from behind at a high rate of speed. The collision sent Jones' car into the opposite lane of the highway and Gunter's car completely off the roadway and into the ditch. Jones was injured in the crash and was transported to Samaritan Hospital. Gunter was ticketed for driving too fast in a construction zone. State Patrol also says neither drugs nor alcohol was involved in that accident. Chelan County Commissioners Kevin Overbay and Keith Gaynor attended a forest health meeting sponsored by Senator Brad Hawkins and Commissioner of Public Lands Hillary Franz, with a panel addressing forest health in Washington State. Overbay said attendees learned more about current and future practices for forest health.
It was actually sponsored by Senator Hawkins and Commissioner Franz were both in attendance, but the panel was made up of a diverse group with regards to forest health, and we had an opportunity to talk to the attendees that were there last night. Roughly about 60 people or so attended that. It was at the museum, and had a chance to just kind of go through, what is being done currently in the community, as well as what we look to do in the future. And we talked through, the CPAW process. We've got actually Chelan County received a CPAW grant, which is a community planning and assistance for wildfire grant. And so working with that team to identify the risk areas and start to look toward, we actually put together a wildland urban interface task force this last week and are working through that. So we had an opportunity to share that information with folks last night, as well as work that's being done by the North Central Washington Forest Health Collaborative and so forth. So it was a greatly attended, and a lot of great information was provided.
Coming up, an update from County Commissioner Doug England on a possible mental crisis center in Wenatchee. An update from the Grant County Sheriff's Department on activity at the Gorge after the Watershed concert. And the City of Chelan looks at possible plans for an ice rink. I'm Grant Olson, and you're watching NCW Life News.
Get the fastest internet available in North Central Washington by switching to LocalTel and get speeds up to 1,000 meg. Call 888-8888 today or go online to localtel.net.
A mental health crisis care center could come to Wenatchee in 6 months, thanks to the behavioral health organization, which serves Chelan, Douglas, and Grant counties. They are developing the facility at the former Parkside Convalescent Center. BHO board member and Chelan County Commissioner Doug England gave us an update on the project earlier today.
It's been a long time coming. We had gone over those bids before, and this was not really a point that we could award the contract, but we were able to state our intent to award it so that they get started on it. They would, under the contract, they have about 6 months to finish it. We're anxious to get that done. The bids came in under what the amount of money we have, but just like any other construction contract, it's a little tight in some places, and so we would have a little bit of money to work for those change orders, which we don't like to see, but you need to kind of plan on them. So we need to look at that, and we authorized Lincoln to go back and work with the contractor to see if there are a few other things we could shave off and still come out with exactly the same quality and do those kinds of things. It was a firm out of Spokane. They wanted to get ahead ordering things and setting up their crew, and so they want to get started very quickly, and we want to get started very quickly. It's been a long time sitting there with only the Women's Resource Center and part of it, and the rest of it kind of sitting there setting off alarms every time one of the neighborhood kids wants to go look through a window and do those kind of things. So we would like to get it taken care of. We worked with the city of Wenatchee, who now has taken the lease back under an agreement with Douglas County, so Douglas County doesn't have to be in the middle of it. Allison was there, and we also went through all the process and the things that we needed to do, and so it looks good. Looks like we're going to go ahead, and luckily it came in under budget. And so what this will handle is a crisis care, kind of a triage setup, so people will know the local law enforcement and the people that need to kind of be sorted out of where they go. They know where to take them, and they won't show up at the jail first, and we can work from there. It has offices, it has treatment beds for people both going in and out of care, and so it's a number of things that had to be taken care of. There's a slight chance that there's a little bit of asbestos in one of the walls that we need to take care of, but it's just a slight amount, and we're not sure exactly how many of those walls. We know some have it and some don't, and that will be mainly to accommodate the windows that we have on site, and so Link is working very hard with that. So also, when we're all through the little touch that we wanted to put on it, there have been a lot of patches, different size windows, things coming in and out, and so we did approve an outside stucco treatment to just kind of make it look nice for the neighborhood, and that's really the only frill that's there. We worked very, very closely with the state all the way along to make sure, as it was designed and as the plans went forward, that it met their requirements. We didn't want to have something put up and then didn't pass and had to go back and do it again, and they were very helpful. They worked very well with us, and we're excited to finally get it done.
You said time frame about 6 months?
About 6 months is what it should take. So in January sometime we should be able to look at starting to put people there.
Over 25,000 country music fans attended 3 days of Watershed Festival over the weekend at the Gorge Amphitheater. There was tons of trash left behind and traffic problems, but all in all, the crowds were well behaved, according to Chief Deputy Ryan Rechtenwald with the Grant County Sheriff's Department.
Overall, I would describe the weekend as a very busy weekend, but no major highlights. The activity that we saw was traffic complaints. The roadways were very busy with concert goers going to the local watering holes. A lot of alcohol complaints, open containers, people riding outside of vehicles, and we only had a total of 4 people that were booked during the concert, but again, we had a ton of traffic complaints, parking complaints. Just a very busy day with 26,000 people all flocking towards one little area. So we mitigated it. We were staffed very well. We worked very good with Live Nation and our local partners. So for the most part, it was a very good concert.
The most noticeable incident happened Monday as attendees broke camp to head home. Grant County Fire District 3 crews were called out to an RV fire in the Watershed campground. Firefighter Nigel McNeil described what they found.
We had 3 stations responding. We had a total of 6 engines respond. We had a total of 15 firefighters end up on scene. The fire was under control about 9:12 when we had it under control. But yeah, when we got on scene there, I mean, we were kind of having a hard time making access to the RV because everybody was leaving the concert, leaving the campground area. So, it's kind of a challenge to get in there. Once we did get there, there was a tent trailer that was actually really close to the RV involved, and those people were actually sleeping when the motorhome caught fire. So they woke up to that, and they were very fortunate. They moved their vehicle and their tent trailer in time. There's no damage to the tent trailer. Yeah, the RV was a total loss, as you could see. The propane, it was the tank was doing its job. It was actually venting. That's where a lot of the noise was there. But tank was venting. Quick attack knocked down on the driver's side of the vehicle. 3611 deploy their deck gun. It seemed appropriate. We didn't crank it up all the way, but it helped knock that fire down real quick. There was a lot of fire, a lot of people there. There was one vehicle. The poor gal had locked her keys in her pickup that she'd bought 4 days before, and the fire did not cause any damage to the vehicle. But we needed to knock it down quick. So that's the route that we went. Nobody was injured, thankfully.
Thanks to concert goer Darren Fasquillo of Bremerton for sharing his cell phone video with us. Cause of that fire is under investigation. Could the city of Chelan see an outdoor ice rink in the future? The City Council saw the results of a study during their July 25th meeting, including renderings of the possible project that aims to increase heads in beds during the winter months. Council member Aaron McCardle led the charge, looking to broaden what is available recreationally in the winter months. The study cost $25,000, which included designing a multi-purpose space that would allow for an ice rink, fall uses like sports practices and tournaments, also receptions and concerts. The project has an estimated cost of $3 million and would be built in Don Morse Park. According to the city, the Town Toyota Center has expressed interest in a partnership, and the next steps include looking at risks for the city and possible partnerships throughout the community. You're watching NCW Life News. Coming up next, Eric Granstrom has your sports update, followed by our features story today. That and much more still to come on NCW Life News. Stay with us.
Are you wanting high-speed internet but don't have access to PUD fiber? Try Sky-Fi high-speed wireless internet from Localtel. Call 888-8888 today. And now it's a sports update on the NCW Life channel.
And a happy Tuesday. The Wenatchee Wild season will be here before you know it. That means a need for families to host players in their homes. Chris Clark and Ryan McKelvey were guests recently on Wake Up Wenatchee Valley. Challenge for the organization is they not only have the Wild, but also their 18-under team called the Wolves.
We have about 45 young men that come here every year between the two teams that need a place to live, and it's you know, they're here for about 7 months, and it's generally a great experience for the housing family, for the players. Obviously, you're supporting these kids as they chase a dream of playing college hockey and maybe even getting to play professionally someday.
Clark, he says the players often become lifelong members of the family.
We encourage the kids to become an integral part of the family, whether it's just a husband and wife, or, you know, a lot of times we get families with little kids, and you know, those little kids will look up to that player. They'll become like a big brother to those young boys or girls, and we encourage them all the time. You know, that's not just a place for you to rest your head at night. Become a part of the family, involve yourself in as much as you can. Obviously, we have a very busy schedule, so it's not realistic to think they can do stuff with the families every night. But, you know, we encourage them to have dinners at home and spend as much time getting to know the family as you can, because after all, these are unbelievable people that are willing to open up their homes and let you live there for, you know, 7-8 months. And so, yeah, it's not just a place to rest your head, a key under the rug to get you in at night. They become part of this family.
If you can open your home to a hockey player this year, contact the Wenatchee Wild office at 888-7825 or email Chris Clark at cclark@WenatcheeWildHockey.com. The Wenatchee Apple Sox had the day off Monday, yet still moved into first place of the West Coast League's North Division second half standings. That's because Victoria fell to Bellingham to drop the Harbor Cats to a record of 13-10. So Wenatchee's winning percentage of .571, while Victoria's .565, basically a virtual tie for first place. Wenatchee prepares to finish up the regular season home schedule tonight with the first of 3 games against Corvallis. The Knights have the best team in the league this season, coming in with an overall record of 30-18. Corvallis won the South Division's first half title with a record of 17-10. They're tied with Cowlitz for the second half lead at 13-8. Sox finished with 3 at Bellingham this weekend. Need to grab that first place spot to make the playoffs. First pitch tonight at 7:05. By the way, Mariner Moose going to be at the ballpark tonight. Also in the West Coast League last night, it was, as we mentioned, Bellingham over the top of Victoria. 11-9 was the final in that one. Max Flower was 4 for 5 with 2-run homer and 4 RBIs as the Bells beat the Harbor Cats. Gresham got by Ben 7-6. Michael Peabody scored the winning run in the bottom of the 8th on a pass ball as the Wolves beat the Elks. Kelowna over Walla Walla 6-4. JT Williams 3 for 5 with 2 runs, while Ryan Smith worked 5 innings of scoreless relief for the win. Yakima Valley beat Port Angeles 7-5. Brad Beasley's 2-run single highlighted a 6-run fifth for the Pippins as they gave chase for the South Division crown. So the standings: Wenatchee 12-9, Victoria 13-10 on that fight for the postseason. Robinson Cano's 2-run single in the top of the 9th gave the Mariners a 6-4 win at Texas Monday to begin a 3-game series with the Rangers. David Phelps worked an inning and 2/3 of scoreless relief to pick up the win, while Edwin Diaz worked a perfect 9th for his 20th save. Manager Scott Service says the bullpen did a great job picking up for starter Felix Hernandez, who didn't have his best stuff.
Story of the game is really the bullpen tonight. Guys are outstanding. I think we had 8 punch-outs down the stretch. Phelps lights out, and Eddie was very good as well. And, the big inning is Zipchinski getting the comebacker and then the punch-out of Andrews. So, a lot of guys chipping in. The game did not start out in great fashion. I think it says a lot of our guys just keep chipping away. We've been down a bunch, here in games in the second half, and we found a way to get back into it, and then our bullpen has kept them there. So it allows us to complete the comeback. So, nice way to start the road trip. A place that we have struggled to come back and win games, so it's a good way, good start. Hopefully continues tomorrow, and we'll go from there.
That's Sports News. Grant, back to you.
Thank you, Eric. We'll be back in just a moment with the recap of today's stories and your smoky hot weather forecast for North Central Washington. Is your vehicle in need of a quick oil change or tune-up before hitting the road this summer? Stop by Quick Lube and Tune, the home of the good guys at 610 South Wenatchee Avenue. Now a recap of our top stories today. The Chelan County Sheriff's Department issued a news release yesterday that chronicles the sequence of events that ended last Thursday night with a Wenatchee police officer fatally shooting 31-year-old Matthew Folden outside Albertson's grocery store in Wenatchee. Here's how the incident unfolded. A radio call for shots fired went out at 10:09 p.m. Rivercom dispatchers toned out fire and aid at that same time, with units reporting they were en route at 10:10 and 10:11 p.m. Officers at the scene rendered first aid for gunshot wounds while waiting for the additional units. The first firefighter arrived at the scene at 10:12 p.m., the first fire truck at 10:13, and the first ambulance at 10:15. The suspect was then transported to Central Washington Hospital at 10:20 p.m. As investigators try to piece together what happened, investigation spokesman Edgar Reinfeld says over the course of last weekend, additional interviews were conducted with several eyewitnesses. Reinfeld also says the officer involved in the shooting remains on administrative leave and will not be named until a later date. Time now for a look at our weather forecast, and boy, before we get to that, it was a smoky one all around North Central Washington today. Here's a look right now at portions of Wenatchee. A lot of that smoke funneling in from different directions around the western U.S., but boy, it sure did settle right here in the Wenatchee Valley today. Here's a look at where that smoke is coming from, and the main cause to our north from a fire that's burning, the Diamond Creek fire up near Mazama. That's bringing smoke down, as well as some smoke from a small fire up in the panhandle of Idaho and a few fires in western Montana. All of that in our valley, and it really hasn't been scoured out because we haven't seen much wind. That should change a little bit tonight. We'll see the breezes pick up, and most of that smoke should leave us, but expect more smoke possibly each morning over the next couple of days as we head through the work week and into the weekend. Let's take a look at your forecast now. And get ready for some hot weather. We are talking very, very hot weather. Tonight, our overnight lows will drop down under clear skies to around 74 degrees. I don't think we'll reach the century mark today because of that smoke, but it looks like we will tomorrow. Wednesday's high at 103, same for Thursday. And Friday, look at that. Sunny skies, 106 degrees our high temperature, 72 our low, 101 for Saturday, 102 for Sunday. Partly cloudy skies at night, and as we kick off our next work week, Monday, sunshine and 101 degrees. And that's going to do it for our newscast tonight. For more on these stories and other news from around North Central Washington, you can find us on Facebook or our website at ncwlife.com. And remember, if you see news happening, we'd like to hear from you. You can send us an email at news@ncwlife.com or give us a call at 888-6295. I'm Grant Olson. Thanks for joining us, and have a great night.
This has been NCW Life News on the NCW Life channel. For more news, log on to ncwlife.com, like us on Facebook, and follow NCW Life channel on Twitter.
Have a fun video you'd like to see featured on NCW Life? Email us at newsphotos@ncwlife.com.